Gardeners are using rice to kill worms. Here's what really happens. If you've spent any time in gardening groups lately, you've probably seen people pouring rice around their plants and claiming it kills worms instantly. As gardeners, we love a good hack, but we also love the truth. Here on Soil Stories, we dig deeper, pun intended, because our soil deserves more than myths and shortcuts. So today, let's unpack what really happens when gardeners use rice to get rid of worms, and whether this viral trick is a treasure or just another trend that belongs in the compost pile. Why rice in the garden became a trend. The idea sounds convincing at first. Rice plus moisture equals fermentation. Fermentation equals smell. Smell equals worms come out or die. But like many quick fix hacks, the full story is more complicated. So, this trend actually started when a few viral videos showed gardeners sprinkling dry or even boiled rice around soil that was, infested with so-called worms. But in most cases, they weren't dealing with earthworms at all. Instead, it was pests like cutworms, armyworms, and nematodes. Each of these behaves pretty differently. The hack spread like wildfire, and before we knew it, rice became the internet's newest miracle solution. But does it really work? Let's walk through what actually happens beneath the soil surface. Here's what actually happens when you put rice in the soil. When you add rice, especially cooked rice, to the soil, it doesn't immediately attack or kill any worms. Instead, the rice becomes food for microbes, those tiny living organisms that help break down organic matter. As microbes feed, they multiply fast. This microbial explosion can temporarily lower oxygen levels in pockets of soil, causing pests living close to the surface, like some larval worms, to move upward or away. But here's the twist. The rice isn't killing them. The microbes are simply creating conditions worms don't like. Let's break it down more clearly. 1. Rice ferments in moist soil. Once buried or left on damp soil, rice starts fermenting. This fermentation releases gases and heat. To small pests, it can feel like the environment is shifting quickly, and not in a pleasant way. 2. Pests move, but don't usually die. Cutworms, webworms, and even some root-feeding larvae may crawl out seeking better conditions. That's why some gardeners think the rice drives them out. But for most pests, this effect is temporary. 3. Earthworms react differently. This is where, honestly, many gardeners get shocked. Rice does not kill earthworms. Earthworms, your soil's best friends, actually move away from fermented pockets for the same reason. They prefer oxygen-rich zones. They're not dying, they're simply relocating. 4. Long-term rice can improve soil if used correctly. Rice is organic matter. Once fully decomposed, it adds carbon to the soil, feeding microbes and improving structure. But it must be used intentionally, not dumped in large amounts. So yes, rice does cause a reaction in the soil ecosystem, but it's not the dramatic pest-killing explosion many claim. Why gardeners think rice kills worms? Let's be honest, gardening is emotional. When we see pests destroying our seedlings, we want a fast remedy. When someone online shows cutworms crawling up after adding rice, it feels convincing. But what most gardeners don't realize is, the pests were already close to the root zone. The rice didn't actually kill them, it just disturbed their environment enough to push them out. The rice creates these temporary heat and fermentation pockets. Pests flee from discomfort, but they'll return once conditions settle down. Some videos out there confuse pests with earthworms. A lot of the worms shown in those viral clips aren't earthworms at all. They're actually larvae that naturally come to the surface when the soil is disturbed. Understanding these differences really helps us avoid harming the wrong soil creatures while we're trying to target the real offenders. But here's the thing, the danger of using too much rice. Here's where things can go wrong. Rice is, carbohydrate dense. When added in large quantities, it fuels microbial overgrowth. This rapid microbial bloom can actually create anaerobic or oxygen-poor patches. It can lead to foul-smelling, sour soil, attract ants, rodents, and mold, drive away beneficial earthworms, and, temporarily disrupt your soil ecosystem. This doesn't mean rice is bad, it just means moderation and method are everything. The safer, smarter way to use rice in the garden is, honestly, what matters most. Now let's shift from myth-busting to real, actionable gardening wisdom, because that's what Soil Stories is all about. 1. Use rice water, not whole rice. Rice water, especially fermented rice water, is gentler, safer, and, incredibly beneficial for the soil. It introduces lactobacillus bacteria that help balance soil microbes, suppress pathogens, and promote plant health. No pests, no smells, no decomposition issues. 2. If you use rice, use very small amounts. A small handful mixed into compost or buried deeply in a trench will break down slowly and safely. 3. Don't use rice for pest control, it's simply not reliable. Instead, use proven methods such as neem seed cake or neem solution, diatomaceous earth around stems, beneficial nematodes, mulching to block larvae movement, and hand-picking or beer traps for cutworms. These are safer, more effective, and won't disrupt your soil microorganisms. 4. Use rice as part of a composting strategy. Rice feeds microbes and heats up compost piles beautifully. If you want to take advantage of rice's breakdown process, composting is the right place, not your growing beds. So, should gardeners stop using rice completely? Not necessarily. Rice isn't the enemy, misusing it is. If you've been sprinkling it around your garden expecting pest control, you're likely wasting rice, and potentially upsetting your soil's balance. But if you use rice strategically, it can be a helpful source of carbon and microbial food. Just remember, rice is for building soil, not for fighting pests. Your soil ecosystem is like a living story, and every chapter matters. When you understand how rice interacts with microbes, worms, and pests, you write a better ending for your plants. Using rice to kill worms makes for exciting viral videos, but honestly, the truth is far less dramatic and way more interesting. Rice doesn't actually kill worms, it feeds microbes, and those microbes just temporarily push pests around. That's really all there is to it. But here's the real magic. When used wisely, rice can help build richer, more fertile soil over time. And that's what gardening is really about. Not quick fixes, but long-term soil health. At the end of the day, gardening isn't about hacks, it's about understanding the living world beneath our feet. And here on Soil Stories, we're all about learning, experimenting, and growing together. Before you go, join the Soil Stories community. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more truth-based gardening insights, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, share this article with another gardener, and become part of the Soil Stories family. Together, let's grow gardens filled with knowledge, not myths.